Welcome back to another part of this F1 25 My Team Career Mode. This is part number 20 today for Season 2, the Imola GP. Last time out, we had 2 red flags and a safety car in a mental race at Jeddah that ended in a photo finish of sorts, a dash to the finish line, as it was, well, 5 cars battling for the, P2 down to P6. We went for the late lunge. We tried to maintain second place to match the second we got at the Bahrain Grand Prix. In the end, we just had to settle for third place. Oh well, but it's back-to-back podiums. Incredible, unreal actually, when you consider the context of where this car is at. We've been very, very fortunate with 2 really mental races where we've got lucky jumping up the order with the safety car, with the red flag, able to, exploit the advantages we may have in those situations. But now we come to the Imola Grand Prix, where this time last season, it was a difficult one. Imola was more of a grounding race, I feel, where there was nowhere to hide. The car performance is very, very apparent, and it seems like going into this race weekend, or off the back of last episode, really, Mercedes making considerable upgrades. No wonder Russell felt like a rocket ship in that last part of the race. They're the closest car now to Red Bull, and maybe even with further upgrades into Imola, they actually might be the best team on paper. We're gonna have to wait until the next episode to find out how those upgrades actually panned out, but they've gotten away from Williams and Aston, who are level pegging. Ferrari and McLaren make a couple of upgrades, so we're kind of stuck in the bottom part of the midfield there with Haas, with Alpine, and McLaren and Ferrari maybe showing their higher facility levels as they try to eke away a little bit from us. We've been enjoying being level pegging with them, but now maybe for the first time, even Lance Stroll and the McLaren might be better than us going forwards, and we need to continue to try and bring upgrades, but it's proving a slow process. They are coming. We've actually got a few parts in development, so I think we will have 2 to 3 upgrades coming to the car. Whether everything gets on the car for both drivers is another thing, because we're doing some dual developments, we're doing some single developments, but a couple of them will be failing, as you will see as we go on through this first part of the video, managing everything into the Imola GP. And unlike last episode, there was actually a decent amount of time in the activity timeline to get things done, to purchase some things. Weight reduction, still plowing on into that, because I still feel like that's a big area for us, just needing a lighter car, basically, versus the AI out of some of these corners to match them. And then we're still pending on a lot of these HQ facilities. Like, I feel like the personnel and corporate ones, didn't we buy them, like, in the pre-season episode? I swear, and they're still being made, so it really takes so long to come in. On a positive note, on the corporate side of things, new sponsor, secondary sponsor on the car, always good to add some variety to our livery. And for the first time in a while, I feel like, we've got a new training point for the owner training area, and I'm going to go for Blue Sky Thinker, reducing time taken to research by 15%. That's not, I'm not taking that lightly. 15% is a massive reduction in time taken. And thankfully, we've got the time in the activity timeline to actually do the owner training, to actually get it, established. So that's going to be, to me, actually probably the biggest upgrade we've done in this episode. Forget the actual upgrades on the aero chassis coming in, even this advanced tooling. I think, honestly, that owner training upgrade is the biggest thing, because that's going to be there for the entire rest of the series, a 15% reduction. And there might be more, improvements to make as we drill down into the engineering side of owner training, I've decided, as we continue just to purchase a couple of things on the facility side of things, just trying as much as we can to spend when we can. Obviously, we're bottlenecked a bit by only 2 upgrades available, but I think also it's kind of a good thing to have some cash lying around. We're thinking about also the future. We're in talks with Antonelli, in talks with Behrman. We need some money there for the end of the season. So if we end the season still over 5 million, that won't be a horrible thing, because we're going to need it for the lofty ambitions maybe of this team going into the third season, which is kind of crazy to think that I'm already thinking that far ahead. But it's really great. You know, you kind of have to think that far ahead now with the way my team is, because it's set up so much for long-term play, because things just take so long to come in. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I feel like we're holding our own in the midfield. We're not slipping away that much from McLaren Ferrari. They may have brought small upgrades from last race, but I think we've had, one powertrain upgrade come in for both cars. The chassis side, I think, has come in for both cars. The aero, I think one failed development, so we have to redo that one for one of the cars. So there might be a little bit of difference between Tramnit and Button's car into Imola. We've accepted a celebrity visit in the aero department. I thought I'd just put that in right at the end of the timeline, basically, just to try and forego the morale decrease there. And then I mentioned it earlier, finally, that corporate upgrade is going to come in, and maybe it was worth the wait, because that is going to take us to phase 2 on our corporate facility. I'm a little bit surprised that it's come on corporate second, because we've got phase 2 on engineering, phase 2 on corporate. I thought maybe personnel might follow through, but I guess the corporate facility, I think, is the smallest of the three, so it doesn't take that much to get higher, whereas personnel, we're nearly there, to be honest. We'll probably get phase 2 personnel at the very start of next episode, as we do get that upgrade in as well on that side of things. So now we can purchase some more things. But speaking about personnel, I didn't realize, actually, we have a meeting available with the very, highly regarded free agent of Ollie Behrman. I'm still actually in disbelief that this guy is a free agent. He's just sitting there on the sidelines, and that is why it's a no-brainer to me that we have to go for Ollie Behrman, because as a free agent, he's the best free agent you're going to get, basically, because the other options are the F3 drivers, and that's the only icons we've got activated right now in the career, trying to keep it somewhat realistic. Obviously, ignore the fact that Button's in the team, but the rest of it is very grounded. We don't have any of these other crazy icons activated right now in the series. Maybe in the future we will do, but right now, realistically, Behrman is the best option. And then Antonelli, we're going for him, but he's contracted to Haas, so he may not want to leave, or the proposal terms may not fit us. Who knows? I'm fully not sure what's going to happen with these two talks. It's not a foregone conclusion. Obviously, it would be really cool. I think some of you guys already said it'd be pretty damn neat if we actually end up having the same driver lineup that we ended up with in the F1 Manager series with Aarava Archer GP. Now with Aarava Archer Racing on F1 25, we end up with that same lineup. That would be pretty neat, across games, across different F1 universes. We've got a similar sort of storyline there with this brand and this team. But it could go a different way. There might be a driver that approaches us, and it might be a really cool option, because Ocon, remember, approached us. I didn't fancy it in Season 1 to go for it, because I had the desire to stick with Button and Tramnit, especially after you guys were saying we kind of grow closer to Tim. But if a driver of that caliber now approached us, I would genuinely be very, very open to it. So let's see. Let's keep our options open, as we're now nearing maxing out X-Formig, by the way, on the title sponsor. So I'm really keen to see the options for a new title sponsor into Season 3, because we've done everything we can with X-Formig. They've been great, but I think there's maybe some cooler sponsors out there with, maybe more interesting liveries, different ones for us to look at, and also just more money as well. I'm assuming as you get new title sponsors later in the game, they also come with more money actually for the team. So that's going to be one to keep an eye out for. But you can see there, equipping parts to JB, because there was a couple that we've only developed one part, because the other one failed either in the single development or the dual development. We're having to redo one of them, and that will have to now wait until after Imola. So that's a bit frustrating, but we did bring a couple of upgrades there, and you can see that's kept us now in line with McLaren. So it seems like last race in Jeddah, McLaren and Ferrari, got a little bit of a margin on us. It looks like now going to Imola, we've brought the gap back to McLaren, but Ferrari have maintained that advantage, and Ferrari actually look quite close now to Aston Martin and Williams. So are we going to see the reigning world champions picking up the pace a little bit more now, finally, in this episode? And then Mercedes, officially the best team on paper now. They have out-upgraded Red Bull. They're right there. They've yet to win a race. Could this be the first time for them to do it? And then Alpine, they're no longer the hottest ticket in F1. It's almost like you can forget about them winning races last season. They're just nowhere near that anymore, are they? And they're, you know, fighting Haas instead. To be fair, though, Haas doing some really great performances with Antonelli last episode. But as we go into Imola, I'm going to drive once again as Tramnitz, actually, because next race is Canada, and I fancy saving that one for JB. Let's get into quali.
Welcome along, everybody, to Imola, just down the road from Ferrari HQ, and they know a thing or two about pace, and pace today is king. It's qualifying day, and it's great to have you with us.
It is a little bit overcast and somewhat doom and gloom around Emilia-Romagna, and there is some rain on the way, and we're going to get out ASAP in Q1 because of that, because the rain is actually already starting to fall. You can see the droplets just, you know, where the tires are, where the halo is on the top of the chassis, and there now also some streaks of rain rolling down the T-cam camera. So it's basically going to be about who can get a lap in early. So I've gone as quick as I could out the garage. Looks like there's no one around me on track, and there's so many people in the garage on the minimap you can see. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their forecast is saying, but they've made a huge mistake. There are only a couple of people out here right now with me. I don't really know where they are in comparison to me on their flying laps. Well, there you go. Jack Doohan's already finished his lap, so we're not the first one out there, but I'm hoping we're still going to be able to gain enough of an advantage to comfortably make it through. But I think we might see some big shocks here with that many people who had stayed in the garage, and that many people are still in the garage as we come across the line. P5, Button has gone quicker than us in P3, so I think he finished a lap earlier than us. And, oh, I mean, this just sells it. There's a Williams on Inters, so they've had a howler. I think both Williams might be getting knocked out. That's an operational stinker from them as their last place and third last right now in the standings there. And at the end of Q1, it is Leclerc P1, Doohan P2 in the Alpine, JB third place. We finish P6, very topsy-turvy, and there are some big shocks. The championship leader, Oscar Piastri, is knocked out in P17. Hamilton knocked out in the Ferrari, and it's music to my ears. Both Williams knocked out. That is massive for our in-game rivalry versus a Williams that is much better than us, but we've just about managed to hang with them, obviously, with the luck we've got in the last two races. But the luck may be running out in terms of it's now fully wet, and we know the AI are really, really fast in the wet conditions this year, and so I'm not fancying my chances. It's full wet initially, then it goes to Inters. I'm the first car Inters. I just didn't bother going onto the full wet because I knew I could see on the radar. You know, when you're in the garage, you can kind of see the forecast 5 minutes, 10 minutes ahead. I could see that the icon was suggesting Inters, and here we are then with just over 4 minutes to go. I'm the first and only car out right now on the intermediate, and the name of the game is basically staying within this darker racing line, the tram lines, to indicate where the track is drying, and then elsewhere where it's wet, just like that curb, and another one, and in the gravel trap, as we get it all crossed up into Aqua Minerale. But we're still purple because that's how much quicker the track is right now. But I'm now questioning my own decision. Have we gone too early onto intermediates? Because the track's only going to get quicker and quicker. We do have enough fuel for another lap if we slow down and recharge the battery. So as we come through the final corner, Easy does it on power, ERS to the line, and it's going to be purple across the board. The fastest lap of the session. Everyone is now coming out. They're going for their first flying laps. I need to now go very slowly around the lap and recharge the battery to 100%. Try not get any more tire wear on this Inter. And then we go again. Less than 1 minute to go. Mark telling me to worry about burning out my tires. So that's how dry it's getting. And the track is going to get even quicker now and loads of people are coming in. There's purple lap times every single lap. Literally, this is everyone crossing line is going quicker. And all of a sudden, we've gone from P1 down to P10, 11, 12. I can't even keep up with how far we're going down because everyone's improving. So it's a good thing we had enough fuel to go for another lap. We've gained nearly 1.8, 1.9 seconds it will be to the line. Surely this is going to be enough. Crossing the line. No, I think that was P11. I think it's P11. It is. Oh, we just about missed out. We just about missed out. Buttons through, which is great for him. It's an amazing day for Aston Martin. We spoke so much last episode about, and previous episodes, this season, they've been up there with Williams on paper, but they've just not made the most of it, or they've just not looked like it. For the first time, both Astons into Q3. Antonelli in his home race for Haas in P6, whilst Ocon was knocked down Q1. That's massive for him. Both Mercs are up there. One Red Bull, obviously, with Piastri being knocked out. So it's a big open goal for Mercedes. For us, that's where our day ends with Tim Tramnett. Let's go to the grid and find out how the top 10 shaped up ahead of the Grand Prix.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters wearing red today, and they've all turned out for what we're expecting will be a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Jenson Button, and Norris, Colapinto, Antonelli, Stroll, and Tim Tramnitz, Hadja, Aaron, Nico Hulkenberg, Doohan, Lawson, Bortoletto, Oscar Piastri, and Lewis Hamilton, Ocon, Albon, Gasly, and Yuki Tsunoda rounds off the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Well, it's been a long time since I last worked with you. Good to see you again today. Anthony Davidson. Well, we celebrated their first appearance on the grid. Let's look back now at what has been a really good first season for our new team.
Yeah, they've made it through the entire season in Formula One, Crofty. No mean feat at all. And they've learnt a lot this season. They can take that knowledge into next year to hopefully have an even better season.
So I thought going into the race weekend, it was also going to maybe be raining for race day. Seems like we might just avoid it. It looks overcast, so maybe it was raining, in the game just before we formed the grids, before this race is starting. And there was maybe some forecast for rain later, but it might just be coming a bit too late after the race ends. So I think we might be all right in terms of that dry pace versus the AI around here, but it's also still not going to be like, oh, we're straight away competitive, because last season Imola seemed to be quite a difficult one for us, and we aren't making things better for ourselves by we did make a complete hash of that formation. For the first time, we get reset and pushed back in our grid slot. It is going to be a forecasted one stop, medium to hards, so it's pretty straightforward, but I'm sure the race will be anything but as we get to go to 5 red lights, and we're underway for the Imola Grand Prix. It's a good start for us, a bit too good almost, because we can't fit in the middle of Antonelli and Stroll. We're boxed in. We go to the right-hand side for the racing line as Antonelli comes across, and we have to take avoiding action. We're absolutely nowhere. We feel like Kimi Raikkonen at Sao Paulo. Where on earth are we driving? Can we come back on circuit? Yes, we can. We're out in P15, though. It's a disaster. Piastri, who was knocked out in Q1, he's alongside us. That's how horrendous that first sector was. I mean, we avoided damage. I don't think we got any off in Antonelli, but I was just so surprised at the closing speed as we fake to the left, go to the right, and overtake Lawson as we ask our engineer about damage. I don't think we have any, though. But that was very, very close. Wasn't Antonelli's fault, really. It was just I misjudged how early people were going to brake basically into that second turn, and we just had to take avoiding action because I feared about keeping the racing line. I would have just broken a bit my front wing if we made actual full contact with Antonelli, I think I kind of delayed the momentum I had by skewing right off on the grass. And at that point, it was just a quick decision I had to make about, am I sticking along the gravel or do I go right across the little escape road around the outside? And we chose that. It's worked out for us in terms of no damage, as it's 3 wide ahead between the 2 V-carbs and the Alpine. Incredible stuff. As we come back at Lawson, he overtook us. We're going to re-overtake him and get back into P14, and we're going to catch Hulkenberg stuck, caught up behind Hadjar, and we're carving through these guys like a hot knife through butter and get up 2 positions in 1 sector up into P12. But this is a replay then, and Antonelli, yeah, from his on board, he doesn't even really change his racing line much. It's just my own fault, misjudging the closing speed there. And then at this point, the only decision, the best decision, was on the right-hand side. Even though it looked so comical being so far away from everyone, you got to admit, we came back on circuit a lot quicker than we would have done in the gravel trap. We may have even got beached in the gravel trap, or, you know, spun in the gravel. So we had to make a very quick decision, and I think we chose wisely. I hope you'll agree with me. But yeah, Piastri for a moment there getting around our outside, but we've managed to push away from him and try and get ourselves up as we try and now suss out a move on Paul Aaron in the other V-carb. Only his, what, like 4th or 5th race in Formula 1. And we overtake him with ease there, maybe showing the inexperience as we're up into P11, but also showing maybe a bit of determination to come back in this race, because it's just a really unfortunate start, and that makes our afternoon a lot more difficult than it probably should have been. But it's already going to be one, because I think Button is stuck in a lot of fighting with other cars, so we're not going to maybe enjoy the same level of performance as we did around Jeddah or Bahrain, but we are going to make quick work of doing, because that Alpine honestly is a dog compared to the same car in season 1. Is at the sharp end then, action between Ferrari and Red Bull. Leclerc squeezing through on the left, but Verstappen comes back at the Ferrari to retake 3rd place. But there's action going on all up and down the field. Button versus Norris for P5, and he's doing really well, Button is, to fight that high up. But to be fair, you know, we are with McLaren at R&D pace, so it's actually a fair game fight between Button and Norris. And Stroll versus Colapinto, well, I'm hoping we can make quick work of Antonelli and close up to Stroll. Colapinto, though, flying pretty high for Aston Martin. That's the highest they've been all season, P7. So is the Aston finally going to score some substantial points in this race? Meanwhile, Williams, in the opposite, for the first time, they may not be scoring. Both of them way down the order. Also with Lewis Hamilton and Piastri still recovering. So a lot of interesting developments to kind of focus on later in the race in terms of how these guys jump up the order over the course of the 32 laps around this circuit. For us at the moment, though, the focus is on Antonelli, and then Stroll is just there. So there are some points-paying positions up for grabs right here at the early start of the race, only 7 laps in. And with DRS available on this straight, we're going to close on Antonelli. Use a little bit of overtake to try and get us ahead. The Haas is pretty nifty in a straight line. Antonelli, though, leaves the door open this time, unlike on lap 1. And we do go on the outside to get up into P9, and now try and set our sights on Lance Stroll as Leclerc sets his sights on Max Verstappen for the 2nd time and grazes the grass on the left, and this time gets his Scuderia through into P3. And the same can be said of Colapinto. Unfortunately, on our teammate Jenson Button, Colapinto with a great overtake for Aston Martin Honda up into P6. Aston, at least with Colapinto, actually looking pretty decent in this one, as there's fighting between Tsunoda and Aaron for P16 as the Williams tries to recover. Hamilton up in P15 now, but some real great scraps, literally from the top end right to the bottom end. But yeah, Hamilton and Williams, P13, highest is Albon, Piastri P12. They've all got a lot of recovering to do. And I'm interested to see Lawson, you know, can he show any sort of the same pace as Franco and, you know, close up to his teammate? Could it be a double points finish for Aston Martin by the end? Is lap 11. We are closing to Stroll. The tyre wear is pretty significant, but I think we're just going to have to hack it and manage the one-stop, because I think everyone is going for the one-stop, so it would be silly to bail onto the two-stop. You know, we did the two-stop last season, and it put us, you know, absolutely nowhere, basically, whereas this season with tyre upgrades, I think everyone's going to try the one as we go to the outside, and we do make quick work of Stroll. Annoyingly, though, he's going to come straight back at us, and the McLaren showing a little bit more pace than it has done in the previous races this season. Also, the tyre wear icon's now orange, so we are really feeling it in the corners. That's why the McLaren kept up with us. And through this left-hander, the rear end steps out, and all of a sudden I see Piastri right behind me, and I just don't put up a fight because Piastri is in the Red Bull. It's been the quickest car up until this point. Maybe Mercedes now better, but he's the championship leader. He's not in my fight today. As much as I don't want to let a position like that go ever, you know, it would have been silly fighting that. It would have lost us more time than it was worth, basically, because my tyres were going off. So I've come in a bit earlier than scheduled. I'm hoping this will give us a good undercut. The undercut's been pretty damn good for the AI on us on occasion, so I think it's time for us to start trying to undercut the AI ourselves. I feel like we've not been doing the undercut as much as maybe we should be trying to in the series. So we're going to try it here now, onto the hard tyres, lap 14. Acres of clean air to Doohan there, who's pit earlier, and he's pit onto a medium, so Doohan is doing a two-stop, so yeah, and he's struggling on this medium tyre, so I don't know what's going on with Alpine. They are actually in the toilet if that is Doohan on a second set of mediums, and he's already struggling with the rear end there. I mean, cool to see the AI making some little, you know, moments where the rear end steps out, a bit more lifelike, as Antonelli, Aaron, they're in, and so we come through across the line for lap 15. There's Lawson, Albon, Piastri, and so we jump back ahead of the Red Bull. But it's a bit futile because Piastri's going to be pretty damn quick on the outlap on the hard compound. His button is now in, as you saw on the indicator on the top. And it's going to be a similar thing. We go into none ERS and let Piastri by, because I'm going to wave goodbye to him. I'm probably not going to see him much later after this lap, to be honest, because I think he's got only one thing on his mind, and that's recovering up to maybe even a top 5, I reckon. But the problem is Lawson's right behind us, so we need DRS from Piastri, and we might need to re-overtake him because Lawson comes at us at a rate of knots. Colapinto out of the pits. Oh, how close was that? We threaded the needle. It's a warning for collision with Piastri. My God, that could have gone really badly wrong, because we had to make the overtake on Piastri, or tried to, because Lawson was about to overtake us, but at the worst possible time, Colapinto comes out the pits. Ay. Oh, let's a deep breath after that one, because that was code brown. That was in the cockpit. That was very, very close. As Lawson snaps at our heels, we've jumped both Aston Martins with the undercut. We've jumped Button with the undercut. That's how great that's been. But the Astons are so much quicker in this race, it seems. They'll be thinking, where was this pace all season long? But now they're finally showing it. Lawson overtakes us. I'm on a hot lap mode, and Colapinto might overtake, because we're having to use some extra overtake mode as it... Oh! Lando Norris on the left-hand side there with an engine failure. It's 1-3 position as we continue to fight Colapinto then, as we're swarmed by the Astons. Oh! We've been spun! We've been spun by Franco Colapinto. We've somehow held the car and not stuffed it in a full 360 or into the barrier. That could have been really a lot worse. That was the same place that Tsunoda span at in real life, remember? And at that speed, you could be, having a one-way trip to the barrier. So he did really well to hold it. This safety car is out, I believe, because Norris was parked up, and then we span it. So the FI just felt like it was too dangerous for those two things to be happening at once. But that's the spin there. I mean, I can't really blame Colapinto fully, because we were a little bit sideways going into that one, because I was trying so hard to outdo Colapinto into that corner. So I can't be too mad, but it is frustrating. That's twice now we've, been off track, and it's a lot messier in a way, especially with that one. Feels like the AI basically had enough of me having good luck, and we've been bullied on track a little bit with, you know, the unfortunate thing of Antonelli being parked where he was on lap 1. Colapinto there, his part to play in that spin. Yeah, it certainly felt like in the cockpit this race, the AI had enough of me free riding our way to 2 podiums, and they were done with it. As we now move on through this race, we've overtaken Antonelli off the safety car restart, and we're watching ahead of us Button versus Hamilton. How about this? The 2 former teammates from many, many, many years ago now, scrapping for P10 in this race. Aarava Archer Racing versus Ferrari, a very different situation. As, what did I say? Piastri, P5. I called it. He was aiming for a top 5, but it's Carlos Sainz that leads the way right now, and it's because he actually overtook Russell. Russell was leading for most of this race, but lap 24, Sainz goes to the left, then to the right, because Russell slammed the door shut on the inside, but Sainz just goes, thank you very much, on the outside, and gets up into first place. But it's a 1-2 for Mercedes right now. That's big for them, and proof that they are really the best team on paper now on the R&D chart. Lap 25, though, Button, he's been re-overtaken by Hamilton, and that's going to be the last we see of the Ferrari as we are now closing to JB. I'm trying to do him a favour and play the team game by trying to defend against Tsunoda, but in reality, what I didn't realise is Button's really slow. I think he's picked up some sort of damage whilst fighting Hamilton, potentially maybe, because now on lap 26, I mean, you can see how slow he is. We're almost pushing him through Aqua Minerale, and I don't know what's going on, but that is not the same pace he had in stint 1. We overtake him with ease, and we're going to push away from him, and we're going to try our best to maybe catch up to Lance Stroll, the car we were trying to chase in the first stint, for points-paying positions after the spin. We're, you know, out the points at this moment, and unfortunately, we are pushing away from Button, and he is falling away as Hamilton recovers, maybe up into P8. Colapinto trying to get P6 from Albon. Albon's recovered amazingly. Albon, remember, was P13. He's now P6. Piastri's P5. So some big recovery drives from those two. And Hamilton, to be fair, from, you know, P18 to P8. But woeful pace for Button, who is now pressurized by Antonelli for P14. Where's his... He's got damage, I'm convinced. There's no front wing damage, so it must be some floor damage or maybe a car issue. I don't know. The pace like that just doesn't disappear from one stint to the other, so something's got to be wrong with this car, surely, because he was comfortably running like P6, 7 in stint 1, as Piastri is just going to hole through P5, I think, and a job well done from a Q1 knockout, as Sainz still leads the way, but he is going to slowly back into Russell. Verstappen, Leclerc, the top 4 separated by a couple of seconds, and the 2 Mercedes, they might be swapping here. Russell, DRS open. The camera angle, a little bit awkward there, but Russell does get through off camera into P1. Verstappen moving all in the brake zone, pressurizing Carlos Sainz, and Russell looks like he's got a spring in his step because he's immediately half a second ahead as Colapinto, great overtake for him in the Aston Honda, up ahead of Albon, ruining the party for Albon and his recovery drive. But it's a great day in the office for Aston Martin, running currently both in the points for the first time this season, I think that is. And Lance Stroll flying the flag from McLaren, P10, 1 measly point. But I think up to his DNF, Lando did actually show McLaren did look a lot better in this race. So that's a bit worrying for us that maybe McLaren and Aston will be closing up to us in the constructors, as Sainz, very, very timid. I think Sainz has a car issue. That's a really, really despondent Carlos Sainz, accepting being off the podium. That's a bit harsh from him. So he's gone from P1 to P4 in the matter of a couple of laps. Verstappen will grab second place. Leclerc third on home soil, but it's going to be George Russell that picks up Mercedes' first win of this season. And they'll be hoping they can work with that fine form now, being the best car on paper on this grid. And for us, it's a real lonely race. We matched last season. Imola seems to be a really difficult race for us in the My Team series because it's nil points for the first time in this season. No points for the entire team. We didn't score points with Tramnets, and neither did JB. I guess it had to end at some point. We were flying high in this season, but maybe this is the start of our reality check of this second season. Who knows?
Here's the checkered flag. Here's our winner. By George, he's done it. Russell wins.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
It's a big win for Russell, but I think Sainz had a car issue, clearly. And I reckon Sainz would have won that if not for that, because he did overtake Russell. And I think once he got the car issue, that's when Russell re-passed him. So interesting stuff. But Piastri now, 8 points the gap to Russell. So it's game on for the championship. And it's between, well, the top 3 drivers are in 3 different cars. So that's great for Formula 1, of course. Button still P7 ahead of Hamilton. Tramnitz goes down to P9 in the Driver Championship. Constructors-wise, Williams get back ahead of us now, and Aston are off the mark a little bit with 16 points. I'm worried. I think they'll start to catch us, and watch out for McLaren. 1 point behind Haas. I reckon, you know, they'll also start scoring points now. You know, even though we've had fun laughing at the McLaren slump, they're no slouches, and I guarantee they'll catch up, as Mercedes also try and catch up to Red Bull, obviously, in the Constructors. So this may be the start of a lot of damage limitation for us in this part of the season, trying to desperately get upgrades on the car whilst other teams start to catch us. It's a tough race for us personally, but still a pretty damn entertaining one at the top end and then at the bottom. Plenty of fighting all through. Guys, if you have enjoyed that one from Imola, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.